Now, let's discuss this. We're joined via Zoom by Minister of Social Development, Lindiwe Zulu. Minister, thank you so much for your time this afternoon.
Thank you very much, Unati, and a very good afternoon to you and your viewers.
Now, Minister, with the unemployment numbers at an all-time high, Social Security now a matter of urgency, no doubt, for this country. Surely the question then should be, do we need a basic, do we need a basic income grant? The question should be, when will South Africa finally get a basic income grant?
Yes, thank you very much for that, particularly because this is what has been coming out from today's discussion. Almost everybody that was there today, we will recall, we are on the occasion of a webinar where we're discussing the basic income grant, and we've invited your civil society, we've invited your business, we've invited some departments which we think are very important for us, and everybody there is now saying it's no longer a question as to whether we need it. It's a question of when, how, and how creative can we be, and where can we get the money from. So the question about whether we need it or not is gone now. That's no longer the question.
And the reason behind this panel, Minister, I ask this question because you have selected this panel, and the question obviously is, are you not removing, the very core of people that should be in these discussions themselves, the many South Africans who are in this kind of situation where they will benefit from this grant? Why this panel in particular?
Oh, not at all. We're not removing the people that would benefit from here. As a matter of fact, by the way, the first person who spoke this morning was just a woman called Nana, who was now explaining the importance of even the 350 that was given by the government in response to COVID-19. And she was explaining what she actually does with the 350, and she was calling for more money. And what I liked about her, when she was asked the question, yes, what you gonna do with more money if you get it? And she then said, I would save it, I would grow my business, which is in the hair industry. I need products, I need equipment, I need a few things, and I'm 100% sure that at least if I had a bit of money, I would be able to add to whatever money that the government is giving me. I would make money out of it so that I can be able to cover everything that I need, the basic things that they need. So we're not excluding them. Hence, she was able to speak. We cannot afford also to exclude the people, because what we are doing here is not for ourselves, it is for the people. And therefore, the discussion, as in the form of a webinar now, it's a continuous discussion, it's a continued discussion that started, as you will recall, that immediately when President Cyril Ramaphosa announced the 350 and gave us a particular time frame, we then asked ourselves the question, what will happen when the 350 comes to an end? And the Department of Social Development, through Brenda and Brantin, who had been working on this issue, pulled out a document, which is the Taylor report, that had been done by the department as way back as 2002, when some of us were not necessarily even in the department. From there, then we said, okay, we don't need to be starting from scratch. We already have background work that has been done. Let's work on the work that's been done already. That's why in this webinar, you will see that we are in partnership also with the ILO and other organizations that have done a lot of work globally around the issues of basic income grant or basic income support.
Minister, not too long ago, when you were addressing the NCOP, you reminded us, through the Q&A, that when too many people have absolutely nothing, it's not in the good of our country, nor in the interest of peace, security and stability. But some people will argue that South Africa has enough grants as it is, and why are we pouring money into social security? In fact, even Treasury, saying that it's sympathetic to the current pressures on grant beneficiaries, but has warned that the current system could become unsustainable.
Well, we're not pouring money into the drain. We're not pouring money into projects that don't work. We're not pouring money into something that has got no benefit. We're not pouring, actually. We're giving those that have got absolutely nothing, no means, no way of survival. And we have seen that in the 350 that was given to people. Some people take it for granted because 350 is what they spend when they're sitting in a restaurant, or 350 is what they spend when they take their children to McD or something like that. We're talking about people who do want to do something for themselves, but the conditions are not conducive for them. The economy is not doing well at the moment, and we should all pull together in making sure that the economy works. These people want to wake up in the morning and go to a job. These people want to wake up, for instance, like Unana said today, that she wants to wake up and work for herself, but she has absolutely no means of doing that. So most of the participants, if not all the participants, were saying we are no longer in a question of thinking that we're pouring money into anything. We're giving money to people that have got absolutely nothing, and we must then hold hands with those people in saying, once you have the money, what do you use it for? Nana said they buy basic food. She buys sugar, she buys bread, she buys mini meal, she buys a little bit of vegetables. And so we must disabuse ourselves from thinking that we're pouring money into the drain. We must disabuse ourselves and realize that the people of South Africa who are poorest of the poor, they deserve our attention. And part of our attention is what we're doing now. We must also disabuse ourselves from the notion that people are lazy, from the notion that people don't want to work, from the notion that it is going to create dependency. We are all dependent in one thing or the other. Actually, one of the speakers today clearly indicated from the ILO that we all depend on one thing or the other. All we are doing right now as a Department of Social Development, working with other departments, including Treasury itself, we are saying it's time we lifted people who are in abject poverty, because this country cannot afford to have people living in abject poverty when it actually can afford and manage that people have something to eat, and also manage that people can be lifted up. That's all we are doing as a department, and we've got full support for that.
In fact, in the report that was sent to me, by some of those involved in the panel, they answered that very question that you raised, Minister. What about the issue of dependency? I would imagine this is dependency from government. I'm just going to read the last line saying, we find that there is no evidence to support the view that a dependency culture or syndrome exists in relation to social grants, or is likely to exist in relation to an implementation of the basic income grant. Minister, how much would be a good amount for the basic income grant? Civil society groups and unions have been calling for an amount no less than 1,500 rands a month.
Look, we are also conscious of the fiscus and the challenges that the country is facing. So we do not want necessarily to be throwing figures around, because that's exactly what then puts people in a difficult position where they say, where's the money going to come from? I don't want to be putting figures on the table right now. I want this process that we are going through now, which will also include the consultation with our people. And again, I'd like to go back to Nana, because Nana was saying she would make it with a 1,500 rand. She would make that 1,500 rand grow, and she would make sure that she doesn't have to be going and asking for money from anybody. So I don't want to throw a figure at the moment, because even the president has said to us, when we were making presentations of this, the president said to us, go and be creative, go be and innovating, go and consult with other people who have the know-how and much more knowledge about how these things work. In fact, he even said to us, let's go to the international community and look at countries that have actually started a long time ago having basic income grant or any other form of grant that they have. So this is the exercise that we are doing, hence the webinar that we have today. It's a continuous discussion, and Prof. Taylor and her team did an excellent job, and we don't want that work that they did then to go back to the drawers or so that it is not implemented, particularly when people are struggling in the manner in which they are struggling. And lastly, I also want to say, we're not only just looking at the basic income grant, like we're just thinking there's money somewhere. We are looking at all other options that are available to us, available to our people, to assist them to improve their well-being. So we have to work with different departments. We have to work with the private sector. We have to be developmental in our approach as far as the basic income grant is concerned.
Minister, I hear you. You don't want to be drawn into the exact amount. So we already know that about 18 million people in South Africa, about a third of the population, receive welfare payments in the form of old age pension and child support payments. But perhaps talk to us then, if you don't specifically want to be drawn into the amounts. Will there be a question of benefit level? We know that we're looking at the age group of between 18 to 60-year-olds, those that will be needing this funding. Will you look at then the levels between the age groups? What are you looking at now? I know that it's early stages in terms of this particular panel discussion that you're having.
Yes, specifically to the age cohort is that of ages 18 to 60. And the reason why it is like that is because if you look at the current grants that are being given for old age, for child, for disability and all, we know that as a matter of fact, some of the people that are supported by government, some of the children in particular from the indigent who do not have parents, child-headed households and all, I've been to a few places where I found 18-year-olds who are living with their grandparents who've just completed their matric, and they completed their matric because they were going to a non-fee paying school. And the grandparents were now saying to me as a minister, here are the children, they've done very well, they've passed, what do we do with them? Now we know that some of them, we then knock on the doors of NSFAS to make sure that they are able to go to college, to university, or wherever they want to go to. But we also know that among those, there are those that might not necessarily be going to college or university or all, they will be looking for jobs. But we also know that there are those who are now entrepreneurial, who are looking at starting their small business, whether informal or some small and medium enterprises. They don't have anywhere to go. They can't go anywhere and say, I'm 18 and now I want to start the following things. Whereas those that go to university and college, obviously they are covered. The 18-year-olds up to the 60. The 60 from 60 is covered by the old age grant. But the before 60 are the people who are jobless, are the people who are still have the energy, the opportunity to do stuff for themselves, but they have absolutely no money. They don't even have money to get into a taxi to go and look for a job. They don't even have money to get into a taxi to go to the internet cafe to go and do some research, maybe, and check what job is available somewhere. So all we're saying is let's lift those up, and at the same time have other programs that we can put in place to make sure that it's not just the basic income grant, but we opening up opportunities for them. And that's the responsibility of both government and the private sector, as well as the academia, by the way.
Minister, I know you have to go, so perhaps let's end the interview here. This, again, is one of those workshops, as to say, you are still in discussion. Nothing has really come out in a clear plan, as it were. But what are the next steps? I mean, we know that the 350 Rand social relief of distress grant will come to an end at some point. So in as far as today's discussion is concerned, what are the immediate next steps?
Well, the immediate next step are following up to what we already started last year when we started the conversation about what to do. And then the issue was there's something called the basic income grant. I don't want to go back to the history of the fact that we went back to the African National Congress as the governing party who had started this conversation in the first place. And we got the nod from the National Executive Committee to say, now go through the necessary processes of Parliament, of the executive. We went to the portfolio committee. We presented there at the portfolio committee as a department. We got resounding support from the political parties. There was even a debate around it in the House. We got the support. Of course, In support, we also got the same issues from the same parties that were asking, yeah, you're talking about this, you're just raising people's, you thinking that you are campaigning. Well, I wasn't campaigning, we're not campaigning. Right now, we would like this to be taken to the next level of the discussion at at Cabinet. And of course, Cabinet is the last leg that will make the decision. How do we implement it? And we've already been asked by the President a long time ago, go and be creative, go and be innovative, go and engage with others, go and find the best solution of implementing it, of course, taking into consideration the fiscal challenges that the country is facing. That's the next step. We got this report now. We're hoping that also this report will be used not only by government, but it will also be used by the private sector and others who are with us, wanting to support us to lift the poorest of the poor, and making sure that the people of South Africa also are given an opportunity to grow. And if the economy is not growing, it's our responsibility to step up and say, we cannot be those of us who are privileged. We can't be sitting in privilege knowing perfectly well that around us, as President Thabo Mbeki once said, that South Africa cannot be a prosperous country on its own, living within a sea of poverty. We must internalize that and bring it back to ourselves from a South African perspective and help our people. They need us. They need this.
Minister, thank you so much for your time this afternoon. We really do appreciate it. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.